This episode of Heroes of the Horn is brought to you by Gabriella Sedai. She could always feel the source there, now just out of sight, like the sun at noon over her shoulder.
Welcome to Heroes of the Horn, a Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Sir Matt.
And I am Sir Ezra. Welcome to our Wheel of Time book club. The horn has sounded, and we have answered the call. Today we are covering the Dragon Reborn chapters 11 through 19.
As we're recording this in the same room, man.
I know.
It's the first time we've recorded Heroes in the same room.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's crazy. It's been a long time. We used to do this, 2-3 years ago, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we started. We had the condo, and we would just like dining room table it. We'd record our Game of Thrones, our Star Wars, video game stuff.
All of it.
I know. So this is kind of cool. And also wanted to mention to folks, I did get a couple pigeons, as they are, about just sort of like, you guys okay? Is it, the pandemic has everyone afraid that
freaking out
serious is
because we didn't post. Yeah, it's because I was traveling.
Yeah. So Sir Matt's starting a new job, and we've had a lot kind of going on there. So, but this is good. We're still going to be on pace. You guys will just get 2 episodes kind of closer together. So this is the Dragon Reborn Part 2, and we'll get into Part 3 later. As always, be sure to stick around for the extended edition that's over on Patreon. Check that out. It's a lot of fun there. We dive a little deeper. Keep the mics rolling and get into some cool stuff. But before we do that, let's jump into this week's sort of episode. And how are you, though? I mean, you're here. I know you're okay.
I'm good, man. I feel not tired, but I think it's just the humidity here today just beating me up. Not used to it.
Right.
Not used to that humidity, and so I'm just like, just feel like it's. I don't know what it is today, especially. I just feel hit hard by it. So
right.
when you're not used to that humidity, and you come back to Ohio or anywhere around the Great Lakes and you just start getting hammered with it, you're just like, wow, it's just a lot. It's just your body's not used to it. It's different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. So it's actually today. The last week it was extremely hot.
Yeah,
it was like extreme, like heat wave came through. And now things are cooling down a little bit. I kind of just am done with summer. I
ready for the winter.
I'm ready. I'm honestly just ready for 2021, maybe 2022.
I think we all are.
But I really just want to get to some fall days or whatever. Because like last night, it was like in the 70s.
Yeah.
It felt freaking amazing.
It was nice.
Just like, it was really nice. But the weather here in Ohio is. It's always changing. It is just always just like in motion, similar to how in this series, like you just can't count on the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Like the weather is always just kind of crazy. So, well, that's good. That's awesome. We have been busy. We have been getting sort of caught up here. You're going to be here for what? 2 weeks? 2 more weeks?
Yeah. So I'll be here till the 16th of August. And what is it today? Like the 5th? Yeah. So about 10 more days.
Nice. So we'll probably get one more of these in before you head back. We'll get another Heroes of the Horn episode in before you head back west. But yeah, we've been trying to stay up to date on the news and things that have been going on.
There hasn't really been a lot of news.
No,
but there is. Well, we do have one piece of news we'll talk about here in a second. But just it seems like it slowed down there. It seems like we're getting it every week. But
right.
I think they said that I still don't know that they have a confirmed date.
No,
that they can start filming again.
So.
But they've said we were hoping for September, which is actually later than I thought. Yeah. I thought they would already be back in production, but I guess not. So we're hoping for that. But yeah, so we can dive into that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's head over to the Village Council here and talk about some of the stuff, just some casting things since the last time we talked. I think we were talking about Oh gosh,
Daisy Conger and a lot of the parents in Edmonds Field. But there has been some new news recently, casting some characters I didn't think would actually be in season 1, and that's kind of the Tinkers, man, the Tuathawan,
yeah, man,
and Aram is one of them. So hey,
that's cool.
That means we're gonna get that. So we are gonna see them. Season 1, my guess is probably you're probably episode 3, right? Because I think that's probably when they'll be split up, right? It's episode 3, so maybe that's when you meet them. So that's gonna be cool. That means that we're gonna see them. I didn't think we would.
Yeah, I know, and actually, so we've seen some of these images. So, like for example, Maria Doyle Kennedy, we've seen her face before, and she was someone who we knew was cast. We just didn't know who she was playing. Everyone kind of thought maybe she was going to play like one of the Aes Sedai or something, just some sort of random, individual there in the White Tower. Daryl McCormack is in there. It's cool. I mean, it is cool because I remember when we talked on the YouTube channel, we were talking about maybe they would skip over the Tinkers and move it to something later. We wouldn't really get to see them as much. I still think they might be placed differently. Like I don't know that we'll see them. Because the idea is you hear that Tinkers have even come past Emmons Field. So you could weave them in much sooner. They could be passing by. We could see these actors or something, just real quickly. And then they show up a couple episodes later with Perrin and everything, which would be wild. So, yeah, the whole thing is, too, you remember that section when Egwene is dancing, right? Yeah. And her and Aram are dancing and doing... Yeah, no, Perrin's a little like jelly and not quite sure how he feels about it. So just kind of wow. He's a character who I guess I can say this in the series, and I know we kind of try to stay away from spoilers, but you got to imagine the Tuathalan are going to be back around, right? I mean, they play a big role. If they're important enough to be cast in the TV series, that should tell you something. Right. You know what I mean? I think that's the way you can look at that. Because there are some factions that, like, for example, one of the other ones that we got was Basil Gill, right? One of the innkeepers. You're not going to cast every single innkeeper, but you are probably going to cast an innkeeper who does reappear in the series. Right. Yeah.
It's just easier, and that way you can have the same person. Yeah, you want that familiar face.
Right. And so it's Darren Clark, who was cast as Master Gill, and I think that's pretty neat. But yeah, I love that the Tuathalan are in there, and it actually is very. I never thought that they weren't ever going to be in the series. I did just think maybe they would skip over some of that, or they would push it around to in a different part or something, or they would weave it in later, because their whole way of the leaf. In every waygate that we've gone to, we've seen sort of like the market, like moving a leaf around and things like that. So there's they're important. They're really important to the series, and they're their whole back. They're kind of mysterious to us right now. Like they're looking for the song, right? They're looking for these things. They're traveling. They fix things, and they're our characters. So Perrin, Matt, and Rand, right, are in this way of life that is like they're in a war. They're in this battle. And actually, at the beginning of the Dragon Reborn, we had one of the traveling people show up to see Moraine, right? And she ends up dying. And it's just like crazy. And Perrin so wants to protect those people, but then also he's frustrated with their way of life because how can what are you going to do? That way of life, how does that protect anybody or do anything to stop the darkness or the Trollocs that are coming, And so you need that group to kind of show what our other characters are struggling with. It just kind of helps to highlight that, I guess. So I thought that was interesting. Now, something else, I've got another link in there if you want to click on it. It is, let's see where it's at here. Adam, Whitehead, I believe, kind of did. Right. He was over on Dragonmount. He does some writing there. He's a blogger. Let's see. Was talking about this Min, Elaine, and Dana, which we talked about last time. We talked about who could that be. Right. You brought up, like, instead of Dane Bornhold, you were talking about Dana, possibly.
Right, which is something he talks about in this, yeah.
Which I just think it's so, there is no, I mean, who is that? I'm still kind of mystified. And what he highlights, because I hadn't read this exactly, but he brings up the idea, and I know you said this is, we said this last time, but Els Grinwell. And I keep thinking more about why they would change those characters that have names that sound really similar. Remember you said, I think you were talking about Lord of the Rings, and it's just like...
It gets confusing.
It gets really confusing.
They do that in Game of Thrones. They do that. There's a character. You have Osha, she's like a wildling, right? Then you have Asha Greyjoy.
Right.
And in the TV show, they renamed her to Yara, so just to avoid confusion.
Right, yeah. And so I guess is there... another thing, though, I was reading his article, and he even he hints at that perhaps House Trakan might not even be like they might be changing some of that. They might be changing.
They're going to have to change some stuff.
Like
at some point, we're going to. I mean, there's going to be something that's cut out.
Right. It's just like you're.
Otherwise, the pacing of this will be like a sprint. I mean, like so outrageously fast.
Right. Right. And so it's like the weird thing is Min being MIA or missing is one thing. I know she does a lot for the symbols, and she can tell us sort of what's up. We do some foreshadowing, prophecy, whatever. But when you throw out like Elaine and her mother, the Queen of Andor, I mean, I don't think they're actually going to do that. I think maybe it's just like there's possibly going to be some changes to it, maybe. Right. But it was interesting. I was kind of shocked to see his article. So I'll leave a link for this, or if you guys are interested in this is on dragonmount.com. Go there. It's one of their most recent articles where they've been trying to keep up on. It's really just show speculation. They're looking at casting announcements, who's been cast, who hasn't been cast, and what do those things mean. So it's pretty neat, and it's all we have right now. So that's kind of where we're at. But those are the big updates. I think the Tuatha on, it's really cool. Really looking forward to that.
It was just a surprise. I just thought, for season 1, I think you could skip over them.
Yeah.
But I guess not. I guess we're going to do it.
Yeah. I hear you. It's okay. How about this? So it's really hard when let's say you have someone who just shows up briefly in the like the first couple books, but they play such a huge role later on. Like, is that how far ahead they're thinking? Are they trying to get someone with like a limited contract for season 1 saying it's going to grow to something else, but we want to cast you? Now, sometimes that backfires because you cast someone.
And then you have to change it.
Yeah, like Dario Naharis, right, in Game of Thrones and stuff.
Yeah, that was a little more of a botch just because once he shows up, he's in it, and they just changed him after the season for whatever reason.
Right, yeah.
But you look at somebody like... I think the best example in Game of Thrones is the Mountain, right? Who's cast 3 different times.
Yeah.
And when he shows up in season 1, he's just an attorney. He loses and he kills a horse, right? And so he's got like armor on and stuff, so you kind of forget about him. But it's like he becomes a big deal later, right? And then you look at somebody like Beric Dondarrion, who they cast in that first season, and when you first see him, you're like, oh, okay, and then you forget about it. Then he comes back, and it's a totally different guy. The second guy is way better.
I know.
Yeah, that show had a lot of recasting.
Yeah,
it did. A lot of recasting.
Yeah, and I hope we don't have a lot of that here in Wheel of Time. But if you're making an effort, which I think they're going to plant some of these characters in front of us so we see them, or we at least have talked to them in passing, because like you said, the Tinkers, there's a good little chunk of chapters, I guess, in the Eye of the World, right? But how much do we hear about them from time to time? They might be passing by, or we see one of them show up to talk to Moraine. But it's just sort of like, wow, it's interesting that they are gonna go.
I would almost rather you just make a new character. I just feel like that's a better thing to do than recast. I would just rather make.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Make somebody a new character, and then just we'll fix it later.
Right. Well, I'll say the 3 that they did cast there are really important to the series, and they do play a major role. So it is cool that they're there. I just kind of thought they would weave them into season 2 and see how things go, or not really make them. But yeah, they also do play a really important role in Perrin's development, and Egwene trying to get some of that last little bit of like.
See, here's the thing:
joy before she goes to town.
Do you feel like their casting makes you feel the pace is slower or faster than you kind of thought? I feel like it's actually, to me, everyone keeps saying we're going to finish the Great Hunt in season 1. I didn't initially think that until I started reading some of the chapter titles or the episode titles. I thought they'll get to like the middle of the Great Hunt, or maybe like the first block of it, right once they lose the horn. and that's how you'd end maybe season 1. But I don't know. Now I feel like it. Now I'm thinking again. Maybe it's not going to get to the end of the Great Hunt. Maybe it is going to be longer than we think. And because again, some books are shorter than others.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to do 2 books because some books aren't as big. So with this, I'm thinking, I don't know. I think it is gonna be a little bit slower than maybe 2 books a season. Some people are saying they might. I get a buddy who keeps telling me, he's like, I think they're gonna finish the 3rd book in season 1. I'm like, that pace is fast.
That's
like,
fast.
That's really fast. I'm like, you'd be ending the Eye of the World in episode 3. He's like, I think you could do it. I'm just like,
yeah, yeah.
Like,
well, it's kind of like what I told you, where I think if you were to blend the 2 books, it's like, what characters were significant in book 2 that we could bring forward into book 1? And so you think of,
we talked about
Varen, Inktar, all that kind of stuff. Like, could you weave
Dana?
Could we see more of the Ogier with Loyal? Right. You know what I mean? Could we meet him in a different place besides the Queen's Blessing or something like that? Yeah, there's maybe different ways to kind of do that. So I have thought, like, do they go at technically a slower pace with Rand, who's our main character, right? And maybe not have him progress as far, but surround him by just a bunch of different, characters. Maybe. But then the problem I have is also like New Spring stuff is supposed to be woven in there, and I think that's going to be a lot of his flashback stuff.
That's why I don't know. I think I am leaning back towards they're not finishing the Great Hunt in season 1.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. I just don't know.
I think you just go at a pace that works, because again, some books are going to be shorter than others, and some are, there may be something that you need just casting wise or whatever, where you say, hey, this isn't. We know later down the line this isn't as important, so we're going to cut this out. Like if you have to. I think the only way to approach this is you have to come up with a plan that works for the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
And just be like, I know that in book 7 there's something I can cut out, or there's something I can take from book 7 that I can throw in here. That I'm just using 7 as a broad example. I could pull that out, put it in here, it'll work, and then we can touch it later.
Well, it's like, okay, not that they're going to do this. We're being hypothetical here, right? But if you're a showrunner and you're trying to figure out what can we do, what do we have time to do, how do we build more characters around Rand, do more, okay, if you're going to bring Loyal in and you don't want to spend a whole, like, maybe you do introduce him at a steading versus like at the end, or you skip right past, like you go through Camelin, but you don't necessarily stop in and talk and see, like, you see Logain and stuff, but you don't really interact with everyone else there and the royal family as much, and you're going to bring them in as like a season 2 type of thing, because it's just a lot. It's just a lot to say that you're gonna meet all of those, because every character that you do meet in the Eye of the World is extremely important. It's someone that Robert Jordan had been thinking about for a long time, and most of them will stick around for.
See, like, I'm with you. I mean, like somebody like Inktar, boom, I think you could bring him forward. Dana, I think Dana is totally a character that if it's Dana, Dena, right? The character, Tom's girlfriend who dies. Again, if you're going at 2 books a season, to me, if you lose Tom in episode like 2 or 3, right, and then he shows back up in he'd have to show up in like episode 6, and now he has this girlfriend, and then his girlfriend dies. It's like, well, it doesn't hit as hard. So she's a character I easily think, okay, I would change. This is what I would do. I would change it if you did want to include her, and I'd have her show up at Edmund's Field with Tom. They've been together for a while, and now when she dies as a result of Rand coming back into Tom's life, and like the Aes Sedai and all this stuff kind of bringing it back into Tom's life, it hits harder, because now it's like, okay, that's, again, it's just one of the things you have to think about with the TV show is, there's a big difference between something that happened 20 chapters ago as opposed to 1 episode ago, right? I mean, it's like the Lan Nynaeve kind of, love story you have going on in the Great Hunt, when Nynaeve is doing the trials and she sees a future with Lan. It's like, well, that, at that point you're 70 to 80 chapters in, as opposed to if you're doing 2 seasons or 2 books a season, her just really kind of meeting Lan at the end of episode 1. Episode 2 is where she kind of shows up, and they're going to go on this, quest together. And now she sees a potential life with him by episode 5 or 6. I mean, it's like, wow, we just met this guy. So it's just, you have to move things around for books to work, and it'll be okay. I mean, I'm fine with them shifting stuff and making it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think we're going to be a little bit blown away by how much they're like you mentioned, book 7 or book 6. Like it may be really important to show us something early on that is going to come back.
And I think that's what they're doing. Later. I would go about it. I think a better approach than, okay, what can we keep from book 1 and what can we take from book 2, right? Okay, then we'll start writing season 2. I think the better thing to do is, here is the entire chunk of information I need to get from this point to this point, right? And let's just make it work, right? I can pull this over here, I can pull this here, I can pull this here. It's like when you're building a puzzle, right? You have all the pieces in front of you. Right. You can start with the corners. You can start with, look, all these pieces go together. I can put it here. You can build the puzzle any way you want. There is no set order of how to do it. And then at the end, you've built the puzzle, and the picture looks the same. So, I think that's just how you do it.
Yeah, and let me ask you this. So I think a lot of people, and we know this just from being in the Game of Thrones fandom, a lot of people who watch the show are not actually going to go read the books.
Absolutely.
They're not going to. They don't want to. They're not into that. They're just into the TV show. They want to watch something that's really cool. Maybe years later they will or something, but they will be surprised. So if you're a showrunner, you still have to throw all the things that we as readers kind of know, we're still going to be surprised. We're going to be surprised at what they do and what they don't bring in, or just, variations or whatever. And there's a lot in the series that they can still have an element of surprise based on who's cast for what character and how people switch and stuff. So, I think you got to think about that, right? You got to think about these people who have never been exposed to the series, have no idea what it is, and you've got to have that Game of Thrones feel a little bit, sort of like, I didn't see that coming. Like, I should have. Now I want to go back and rewatch it. I can see traces of that happening. So,
I always find it weird. I think it's just funny because it seems like film adaptations that come from books, because there's dialogue and and the story's more written out and it feels more of like a script, right? People tend to be way harsher on when they take liberties or when they do stuff differently. But in every superhero movie, they're drawing from comics, and people, it's just because comics are just, canon that gets completely destroyed and rebuilt over and over and over again, and people are just fine with them taking interpretations from this comic and this comic and this comic, and it's just fine. And it's like, I don't really have an issue with a movie that draws heavily from a book and just being like, no, it's inspired by. It doesn't have to be the exact same story. We can go about things in our own way to make it work, because you have to make it work as a movie, right? To me, one of the criticisms I have of the movie The Watchmen is that the movie, it's just like all over the place. It's like weird, but the people who read the graphic novel are like, we love it because it's so it's so true to the source material, which is cool, because that's what the route they wanted to go, and it worked. But the problem was that I probably get some flack for this, but the source material I don't think is that good, because I don't think the story is that good. It's just me. It's just weird, and don't not that it's weird. I mean, I'm fine with it being quirky, but I just think the story itself actually doesn't flow very, very, very well. It has to work as a movie. It just has to.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and it's something Brandon Sanderson mentioned, right? Is there going to be people who super hone in here and say, I can't believe you cut that character, or you didn't bring them in, or whatever, and but I think you really do have to stop thinking about it as a book series, and it's a TV show, and how do you make this, and remember that most people will never have read it, have no idea what it is, nor will they even want to go read the books, which is okay.
Exactly. And the other thing is, like, when I think of the Lord of the Rings, and we're a book club, obviously. We love books.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the books, but yeah, I mean, you deal with the Lord of the Rings as, right? The people, like, it's like, think about this for a second. The Lord of the Rings won the most amount of Oscars, like, ever, right? Return of the King tie, it won like 13, right? Which is like, ties like Titanic or something.
Right,
I think they're tied, right? It's like, okay, Return of the King won like 13 Academy Awards or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yes.
But you know what? There are people out there that are like, it doesn't follow the books. Or they think that the film adaptations aren't true to the source material. And you know what? The group of people that adheres to is so small that who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
You are totally within your right to have the opinion, and I mean, I personally don't, whatever, but I know people.
There's a small, it's like
that
a small,
but it's like if you're a showrunner, it's like I can't cater. I can't cater to the hundreds when I'm trying to sell this to millions.
That's right.
It's just, that's how it works.
Right. Yep, that's exactly right. And it's unfortunate that sometimes those hundreds will be the loudest people.
Right.
And you have to look past that because most people truly enjoyed it. And that's where you go look at the money on it, right? How well did it do? What are the ratings? All that kind of stuff, So
just make a great movie, man. Yeah. And I love the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like I like the Lord of the Rings movies more than I like the Lord of the Rings books. I don't like the Hobbit movies more than I like the book of the Hobbit, but that's okay. And
right. And there was reason why, like Peter Jackson cuts out very specific portions of Fellowship and Tom Bombadil. What does it actually really do?
Right.
And it does do a lot for the reader, but if you're thinking about just this, I mean, it's just a side quest.
Right.
And
and even where they end it, I don't know that you need all the stuff with the Shire at the end.
Right.
I think where they end
the numerous endings.
Right. I think
it's great in the books. It's great, but it's also totally fine just to say they went back and they lived, and
they're already 4-hour movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, that's another thing. Find another book series that is willing to make a director's cut that's a 4-hour movie, and look how much it includes.
Right.
Like, I mean, they would have to be 5-hour movies to include everything. It's just not. It's not feasible.
Right. Yeah. Which is why I'm glad this is a TV series, because I really hope that it gives them way more
time.
Room, to do this, and it's also why I'm so happy that Game of Thrones was such a success. Because now you have Wheel of Time saying, let's do a TV series, which is great. You also have Lord of the Rings going back to the Second Age, trying to do the same thing, trying to say, let's just take our time and work through the material. And it's awesome. We want to consume it, and now that they know that, we're good. It's a good thing. So
I mean, I think one of the best things that ever happened, oddly enough, was Harry Potter and Twilight said we're gonna do it in 2 parts.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, how many people, oddly enough, it's like you really don't see people bashing Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when if you want to talk about without question, that movie had to cut the most out.
Yeah.
That book is like by far the most packed compared to the rest, but it's like for some reason people don't bash it.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people bashing Wheel of Time like immediately when it comes out. That doesn't happen in the books. That doesn't happen in the books. It's like, dude, it's 15 books, dude. Like, what do you want us to do? Like,
right. Yeah, which is fine. Which is fine.
It's like the showrunners could just be like, you know what? Let's just not do it. It's too hard, and then you don't get a show.
Right.
I'd rather have a show than
I know. Well, actually, one more thing before we move into this into our chapters. So I was thinking about the Tuathon, right? And the reason you would include them, and I thought about what I've been most. If I just get one season and they end up canceling it, right? I want Wheel of Time music. I want to know what it sounds like. I want to know, and so they have good music in their camps and stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my god, that would be so cool to kind of hear what they think that would sound like. And then
I'm ready for that. I'm just so ready for the opening theme.
Yeah, then I can get inspired. It
has to be epic.
There'll be covers of it. It's just going to be
the Wheel of Time intro music. It has to be good.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and I think it will. I think it's good
because I think it's something that helped set Game of Thrones apart, man.
Yeah,
because everybody loves that music. That it's like you just go and you're just in it, right? And it's like you gotta have it. You gotta have that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That intro music.
Okay, cool. So that's a good just sort of update on some news, discussion on the show, things of that nature. Now, I want to mention here real quickly, just for our listeners, I want to give a shout out to our Taviren. I always like to do that. Sir Nicholas, Lady Stephanie, and Lady Heather, huge supporters of the podcast. thank you guys so much. And then also we had a few folks jump up into the 100 companions, which is pretty cool. I think from there and higher we are, and actually one of the individuals who did jump up in there, shout out to Nicole. All right, we just Matt and I did something really kind of fun with her. I got to post that this weekend perhaps, or maybe next week. But we had a discussion about the Great Hunt, and she's one of our patrons. We brought her on, and it's so much easier with Zoom just to say, hey, let's send somebody a link, and you guys want to jump on and talk about the book series or whatever. And for right now, when Sir Matt is there, we just don't talk past the podcast. Remember that. Keep that in mind. And we did. We were fine. Nicole was also just barely ahead of where we are in the book series, and so that was pretty neat. And I think I'm going to run possibly a Zoom chat with some of our patrons, and I think I'm going to try to set that up here in the next couple weeks.
Nice.
So I just want to hop in there, send everybody the link. If people want to hop in, it's more of a meet and greet, get to talk to people, get to know you guys. So that is for our patrons, and that's going to be on Zoom. I'll send you guys a link. We've recently started doing that on Bend the Knee, and it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. Turned into like a Bend the Knee kind of a Game of Thrones happy hour. It was like,
yeah, absolutely.
It was great. So I'd love to do that with some of our patrons here, because I want to get to know those folks and talk about, get their thoughts more so on the series and the TV show. So huge shout out to them, and thank you guys very much. All right, well, with that, I think it's time for us to let the dragon be born again.
Let's go here. All right, man. So let me do my little too long didn't read recap here. Wow, man, this whole block of chapters, first of all, no Rand, no Perrin, right? We're just it's pretty much all the girls, which is cool, and then Matt at the end. And pretty much, I mean, I think I can sum it up in just a little bit here. One, they get in a lot of trouble. I mean, which we hear about over and over and over again. I'm literally I'm like 6 chapters into the reading. I'm like, oh my God, man, how much are we going to keep talking about? Like, they should have done that. And then also, how hot is Galad? Okay. I mean, literally, every time it just keeps coming up. I'm just like, I'm literally, again, as I'm going through this, I get to a point, I just text as I'm like, I think I just listened to like 20 minutes of them talk about like how hot they think Galad is, right? His muscles are so big. I'm sorry, I shouldn't bring it up. And it's like, gee, many Christmas. It's like freaking Tinder over here, man. I know. They're just like ready to go. It's like a thing in this book series.
Yeah, no, it's great. You're right. That's pretty much
the sexual tension in this book series. I mean, my God,
it's great.
Which
is also why I'm glad that they made that Tuatha on casting where Egwene was dancing and stuff. I'm telling you, it's epic. Now, remember we talked. It was during the Great Hunt, but we talked about Selene, right?
Yeah,
and all the tension there. So
well, she's back. So
yeah, and you've got Huron kind of staring at her like in the last book, and then so it's interesting. Yeah, you're right that now we get the girls talking about some of the warders in training.
It just goes back and forth. So, all right. Chapter 11. The group reach Tarvalin. The girls are sent to their rooms and told to be silent. Chapter 12. Varen tells Siuan that Rand has proclaimed himself in Falma. Chapter 13. Siuan tells the girls of their punishment and that Elaine and Egwene will be raised as accepted, right, as their abilities are beyond that of a novice. Chapter 14, Swain tells Egwene and Nynaeve that she wants them to hunt the Black Ajah. I thought a Black Ajah didn't exist but you know what? We ran into one, right? Chapter 15, a gray man shoots a crossbow at Egwene and Nynaeve captures him with air, but someone else kills him. The air thing was pretty cool. I like that. Chapter 16, Galad and Gawain visit. Nynaeve brings Elaine in on the search. Chapter 17, Elida questions the girls about Rand. Chapter 18, Matt is healed of his link to the Shadar Logoth dagger. Chapter 19, Matt wakes hungry. And real quick, is Rand not in this book?
Where's he at?
I mean,
where's he at? The Dragon Reborn. Lord Dragon. All right. Yeah, no, that is interesting. And I know last episode we were talking about the Shanarans and what is going on with Uno and all of those guys and how much they're wanting to be They're sworn to Rand, and is the Lord Dragon mad at us, and all that kind of stuff. We actually get a little tie-in here with Huron at the start of this, where once they get into the city, he departs, right, and he bounces and goes to see Lord Agomar and the king and talk to them about the events in Falma and really what happened. So, so that you get the news of Rand and what he's doing is spreading. Other people and their interactions with Rand, we hear that. We get Perrin. We're going to get more about from the girls here. Elida, as you just said, they're all interested in these Taviren and Rand, but we don't really get a whole lot about Rand. Mm-hmm. And I think what it does is it just builds the suspense. You keep wondering what is going on in his mind. Like, what is he, after that, a big event like that on Falma, we get a little bit at the beginning of this book, and I think it's just enough. It's just a taste, right? To kind of say, don't worry, he's still there, and here's some of what he's struggling with, but then I'm going to move away from him, and I'm not going to tell you what he's dealing with, and you're going to have to experience that through other characters. It's genius. Mm-hmm. It's actually genius, because then the whole time I'm just thinking, what's he going through? And so it's wild. But here we are, and we're in Tar Valon. This is a lot of Tar Valon, though, right? The White Tower. I mean, we're in here with the girls, and we're learning about the Mistress of Novices, right, Shiriam, and we're learning about the Amerlin seed, Suan. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, so they come back, and the biggest takeaway, I think you kind of, to start this off, is that they get raised accepted, but they're punished.
They are punished, and they get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's like chapters worth of them being told, like, why did you do that? Why did you go? I mean, and this might be honestly, because a lot of these chapters are just so similar, and they're all just kind of one thing. So it might just be doing some bigger takeaways until we kind of get to the end, where then it kind of shifts. But yeah, I mean, just so many people asking them, like, why did you go? Like, you shouldn't have left. You shouldn't have done this. And Egwene's like, I mean, really, what they should just say is, I don't know, maybe because it's freaking Rand al'Thor,
right?
The Dragon Reborn,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
Like
things are changing.
Things are changing. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and that is the thing, right? Is that they are so close. They're so close to him. If Moraine and Loyal and the Eye of the World, if they could see the web of destiny forming around Rand, you have to imagine that. Elida definitely comes in here in these chapters and sees that. And
thinks, I mean, he must be Taviren. It's like, no joke.
Yeah,
okay,
come on. I
mean,
right.
He's not, okay, it's like, oh, yeah, he's just Taviren.
Yeah. Yeah, and what is cool is they do make a distinction in like that he's a more powerful Taviren than even like Arthur Hawkwing and stuff, and you're sort of like, what is that?
Yeah, because he's the freaking Dragon Reborn. Right, exactly. Okay, I mean, like,
yeah, but it's
like there's Tavirens and then there's the Dragon. Okay,
like, yep, exactly. So anyways, they almost get kind of they get a punishment, right? So they obviously were tricked into leaving the tower,
right?
Tricked by the Black Ajah, Leandrin, right? And captured. Egwene is still dealing with all of that stuff where the Shan-Chen, put the Adam on her, and she was forced to do things. Now, what it does do is, and it's a cool device that Robert Jordan uses, which is to say, okay, to be a novice, and you've heard that it's years of studying. Right. We don't have time in a series like this to watch them go through, years of training or whatever. So we kind of have to see them somehow be accelerated. So by being tricked and then by being forced into things that are well beyond, it's sort of like you have to explain, why is Egwene going to accelerate or move past where other novices are? Well, that's a part of just the pattern in the wheel. It's also a part of the idea that she is she's forced to it. She has to do it. Things that are, because the whole thing, right, on their way from Faldara, when they're headed back to the White Tower first, they're getting trained. But remember, it's like you can't channel unless you're being guided or you're super careful or under the supervision of a full Aes Sedai. Well, they sure as heck did a lot of that when they were in Falma because their lives depended on it. So they get kind of accelerated in that way. So their powers are beyond that of any novice. So yes, you can go to accepted, and we saw the test for the accepted with Nynaeve. Remember, we saw her kind of go through that, and we understand what that's like, and we can get to that in a second, which is when because they have to go face their test or whatever. But the other big thing is that the reason they are kind of, I guess, protected a little bit is they know all the secrets. They know what's going on with the horn. They know, like Varen, they have the horn, right? I mean, they've kind of got this had this meeting in Falma. They're bringing Matt back, and he has the dagger. They got to separate him. And that was interesting. So I think we talked about it last time, but Matt was sort of getting weaker and weaker. He was dicing with urine, and then got to the point where he just can't do anything. So he's hours away.
He's kind of like temporarily healed, right? Then he wasn't. Yeah.
Right, and he's like hours away from possibly dying. So it's like chapter 11. I think Nynaeve is wanting to just bust in there real quick.
Exactly, because they're getting up there, and then Varen's like, "All right, you guys don't say anything," and they're just kind of like, well, we got to save our friend, right? Because he's like literally about to die.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, and the big thing is that their friend is that horn sounder, someone who literally sounded the horn of Valir, who said, it doesn't say we can't blow it more than once.
Let's go.
You know what I mean? So he sounds the freaking horn, and the heroes come back, which is wild. But no one knows that. So, and you can see why Varen says to Shiriam, the mistress of novices, lock these girls up and do not let them out. Or let them talk to anyone until the Amyrlin sends for them. So because Varen's like, I got to update her on this. Because remember, Suan and Moraine kind of brought Varen in because she put 2 and 2 together, went down and looked at the markings in the prison with Patron Fane. And so she kind of is in on this understanding who Rand is. And now is updating sort of the team, the inner circle, if you want to call it that, right?
Yeah.
So they have to kind of, chill out, because could you imagine if they started like talking about this stuff to other Aes Sedai or other novices or accepted or whatever? Not that they would. I don't think they would. But if you're Varen, you don't really know them, and they also just disobeyed your orders out there with the white cloaks and the guards as you're coming.
Well, and
town.
It's like even like Moraine is like keeping the whole like Rand is the Dragon Reborn. Like it was trying to keep it like under wraps, right? I mean, it's 'cause,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. So Suan is waiting for Moraine and to hear from her. And it's actually when Leanne shows up, her Keeper of the Chronicles shows up and says, Varen is here, and she has some updates for you. Why doesn't Moraine come back, right? Moraine has got to stay right next to you-know-who, Rand al'Thor. But now she's lost him. So that was last episode. We'll get back to that. Moraine, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Varen goes back and is about to go in here and talk to the Amyrlin. Something that's kind of interesting is I guess with these chapters, you finally get to see. You've heard so much about the Aes Sedai and the mystery of their society and like their order that now you get to kind of understand more about Suan, Leandrin, the Keeper of the Chronicles. What does it mean to be in these different Ajahs? Like, how important is that? It actually seems there's an element of Game of Thrones to the White Tower. Everyone kind of vying for power or influence or pushing their agenda, and it's odd, right? You wouldn't think there would be that much politicking in the White Tower, but there kind of is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's interesting. So yeah, let's see. She's led in there. She tells the Amyrlin that Rand has proclaimed himself to be the Dragon Reborn. Just says that. And it's more important that did they already believe that he was, and we already kind of had that conversation. Yes, but
I think they were waiting to see.
Yes, and actually
because the first time he uses like the power, it's just Moraine that's there. Right. Mm-hmm. And I also, I don't know how they feel. Maybe this is just me because I'm not far enough along in the series yet. But Moraine, is she like? Do people are just like 100% like, oh, she is good? Is Moraine maybe like somewhat of an outsider with the Aes Sedai? Like, not like she's outcast, but it's kind of like I'll use it like a Star Wars reference, like Qui-Gon, right?
He's out,
where it's like Qui-Gon Jinn is like he's a Jedi Master, but he's not on the council because he doesn't necessarily play into the politics. He's kind of doing his own thing. Is that like something?
Oh yeah,
that's kind of the way it just seems just a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'll give you another example. So Robert Jordan loves Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, right? So Gandalf was a member of the White Council, but often went about and did his own thing. Well, member of, I guess, sat on some of the council meetings. So he like is out doing his own thing away from Saruman and others, and kind of leading this. I mean, the Hobbit is all about him sending the dwarves back to reclaim their, the mountain. And that was not something that was sanctioned, or that they were going to support, but he saw something in it. And so it's like Moraine, the normal course here would be if the dragon, someone is proclaiming themselves to be dragon. It's like, look what they did with Loghain. It does. And actually, what you realize is that the Red Ajah may even, like, if the Amyrlin were to say, no, this is like, we need to capture, tame, or whatever, they might just say no. Like, they're pretty extreme in their role. This is our one role when a dragon or a false dragon comes forward, we're to still and do, whatever.
Right. And so how do they have any idea how do they honestly know whether he's false or not?
Well, see, that's the thing. Yeah,
how do they actually know?
It's almost like, years ago, maybe they were more so looking for the dragon to return, and then sniffing out some of these false dragons. But now, after so many false dragons, it's almost like they've fallen into, that's just rumor and legend. It won't be in our time. The dragon won't return now. That couldn't happen. Like, no one believes the end of the world is happening in our lifetime. I'll be dead and gone. It might be, I know.
2020, man.
I know. So, but that's sort of that disbelief. You just don't think something like that could happen in your lifetime. So I think that's where the Red Ajah is, in that they kind of that's just clearly another false dragon. Whereas Moraine is seeing the signs and is reading this and thinking this is the dragon will be born like now. Like this is like and that's Rand. So so we're just getting kind of caught up there. Interesting that Matt becomes more important. So remember how Moraine in the beginning of this book kind of said, with Perrin and even Matt, she had overlooked that they are also Taviren.
Yeah.
Right? She was so focused on Rand that she was forgetting she had other individuals that were actually put around her by the Pattern for her to use and tap into. And so it's like now Matt has just fallen into the Amyrlin's lap. And he's also the person who sounded the Horn of Valir. So good and well that they are going to keep him as close to them as they can. They're not going to let him out of their sight. And it is very important that now they did kind of have a decision here. Like, do you let Matt die because he sounded the horn? Like, do you detach him from the horn, or do you save him and keep him in your so
see here, I'm totally for maybe that Tom Maryland idea that the Aes Sedai, I don't trust them.
Don't trust them.
Okay, I think they have their own agenda, and it's kind of similar to like you see this in other things with like church, right? Like not like religion, but like the church, right? And how like sometimes a church wants to keep power, so they'll suppress things, right? Because if they, like if something were to prop up, then it's like, well, okay, hold on, now the church itself doesn't have power. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you're the Aes Sedai, right, and you have this authority over people, right, and then suddenly the dragon Reborn appears. Well, are people going to keep listening to the Aes Sedai, or are they going to listen to the dragon? And so then that's where you kind of get that like, oh, well, maybe we want to suppress them or, gentle these people. So that way it seems like we still have a purpose.
Yeah. And then even so the whole thing with Siuan and Moraine is that they're trying to they want to.
I don't mean Moraine. I mean the other Aes Sedai.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But I think it's also that you look at Moraine, like she's like talking about how she needs to guide him. He needs a guide. Does he?
Yeah.
Does he need a guide?
Does he?
Perrin kind of says that, like, if he is the dragon, then doesn't he know what's best to do?
Yeah.
You know, like, and then she's like, no, you idiot. You know, it's just like, what are you talking about? He clearly does need guidance, and he does, if he is dead, if he's killed before his time or whatever, I mean, he may be the dragon reborn, but not be able to fulfill the prophecies, and then we would just go back into this other tons of false dragons until the
next one,
an age passes again or something. Who knows? So it's tough. It's kind of tough to see that. But anyways, Moraine is trying to kind of be that guide by the side, and so if you're the Aes Sedai, you don't want to have no say in that, right? You want to be somewhat connected to them and be near that person because you're fighting for the light, and if this person's supposed to be the leader of the light at the end against the darkness, then you want to be near him and have some say in what he's doing. But that may not be the way it goes,
Yeah.
So, okay. So we get a full report from Varen. Basically, the next biggest thing that comes in is that Elaine and Egwene are raised, accepted, right? And they are brought before the Amyrlin, and they're kind of questioned. You get sort of the protocols. They refer to her as mother, and they walk in and they learn sort of that they're going to be raised. They are scolded, though, because how could you be so stupid as to let Liandrin, lead you away from the tower? Like, so it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I'm raising you, and yes, I'm acknowledging that you've grown in some way, but I don't completely. It's not that she doesn't trust them. It's just that, like, you need to trust in what I'm saying and what I'm doing, because clearly you messed up and clearly you were easily led astray.
Hold on a second.
Let's go.
I guess because my question is, we came, you brought us here to be trained as Aes Sedai. And how is it that us novices who just got here are even put in a position in which we have a Black Ajah, of which you've told us doesn't exist?
Yes.
And then, so it's like, hold on a sec. You're the one. The Black Ajah shouldn't exist under your watch.
Under your watch. Let's go.
Okay, I'll defend Egwene to the end of the days.
Yeah.
Okay, because they're. I mean, it seems to me like the Amyrlin seat needs to clean up its act.
It does, doesn't it, dude? That's actually really. It's funny that you bring that up, because like Nynaeve does try to say, we were like, that was like a full Aes Sedai who stepped in and said they needed help. Like, why wouldn't we trust that person?
Yeah.
There's no reason. You've told us the Black Ajah doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
Exactly.
So why would we not be, don't call us stupid. You're stupid for not putting the warning out that, hey, there are possibly dark servants in the White Tower that can channel. Like, that's pretty crazy. So anyway, really good point there. Nynaeve, is okay. So then they're sentenced to some switching, right, by the Mistress of Novices. They're gonna
work in the scullery, right, until their hair is gray.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Siuan also tells Elaine her mother, this is right, had paid a visit to Tar Valon. This causes some issues because remember when we were last in Caemlyn, there were the red and white, right? If you were wearing red, you were supporting the queen. If not, you might be white, maybe taking up with the white cloaks and the idea that maybe the Aes Sedai have too much influence.
And Rand wore red.
They did. By chance, yeah. Thank goodness. He's a good queen's man, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, to have Morghese show up here at Tar Valon and say, where's my daughter? Why haven't I heard from her? That put a lot of pressure on Siuan to say, yeah, we lost your daughter. I mean, like the daughter heir to
what
Caemlyn.
are the Aes Sedai
What
doing?
are they doing?
My God, man.
I
know. You're just reading. As I was reading this, I was just like, hold on a second. Every time I'm just like, how is this Egwene and Nynaeve? How is this their fault? Right? And then you have people like Tom Maryland who was like, don't trust them. People like Celine who we'll talk about who's like, don't trust them.
Right. Mm-hmm. I know. It's wild. It's pretty crazy. So there's something going on now. And the thing is that you can tell there's a lot of that because Morgase actually went to the tower and was trained to some degree, just didn't have the potential,
right?
Or whatever it takes to kind of become full Aes Sedai. So she has Elaida as her Aes Sedai advisor, but refuses to bring her back because she's so kind of like, and she's even wants her daughter to be given the option to return. And it's Elaine who says, I'm staying. Wants to learn, wants to push through. And so there's that. But there's tension. That is not a typical, like normally there's a really good alliance between those two, right? And so even like Gawain and Galad also had to put up with that. Like, no, we're staying. We want to be trained. It's fine. It's sort of like their mother is freaking out, and there's reasons why, and we'll talk about those later. But pretty crazy, pretty crazy. The next biggest thing. So not only were we told that the Black Ajah didn't exist, then we find out that it does because we were captured by them and were taken away. Now, since we were the ones who were duped. That being like, Elaine and Nynaeve and Egwene, Siuan says that she wants them to hunt the
Black Ajah.
The Black Ajah. What? So, and it's like, wait a second. Why wouldn't you pick someone who is like, full Aes Sedai? Why wouldn't there be a whole like commission on this? Well, it's because we don't know who that could be. Right, so the Amaryllis is realizing that, and actually, what she says at some point is like, keep your relationship or your interactions that you have with Liandrin private,
right?
Because if you don't, they're going to affiliate you with that. It's sort of the same thing. Like if you're
they don't really know because they said it was it like 12 girls went with her or something like that. And they killed a bunch of people and stuff like that too. And so it's like I don't think they know. I think one, it's kept kind of under wraps. I mean, there's probably rumors,
right?
But at the same time, I don't think, that
it's not known that
it's not known.
It's not known that Liandrin kind of kidnapped them, took them away. It's almost as if they ran away and they're being disciplined because they were away. But if you find out that they were led away by Liandrin, you might be thinking, if you're one of the Aes Sedai, no, maybe they're in on this,
right?
And the fact that they're back, how are they not killed? Right. By Liandrin, or why is it that other members of our order were killed and these girls would come back? So you definitely don't want that connection, which is what Siuan kind of lets them know. Like, do not, let anyone know what happened to you guys.
Right.
And on that note, I can't trust anyone, so I am going to have you seek out these Black Ajah members. And they did steal, right, some of the sa'angreal, ter'angreal. And there's a list. She sends them to Varen to kind of get the list, all the descriptions of the women, where they're from, all this stuff, and sort of like piece all of this together, which is pretty crazy. Now, the big kicker is that since they are accepted, how are they supposed to kind of keep up with their accepted duties, do their studying, get ready to be raised to full Aes Sedai, and also go on this mission for the Amaryllis? And you find out that the Amaryllis gives them this secret letter, with the Amaryllis seal, right, to where they can do almost anything they want. That what they are doing, whatever business they're
for
about.
Emergencies though. It's for emergencies only.
I mean, that's like a hall. That's like
it's like Matt with the Horn of Valir. Well, okay, I mean, here we go.
Or I was even thinking like for some of my students, it's like when Mr. Kirk doesn't put a date on the hall pass, well, I'm keeping this bad boy.
Oh, absolutely.
I can do whatever I want now.
Right. That's like me with my scripts for my doc. Just joking.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah. So that's kind of neat. You get this emergency letter, right? Which is pretty cool. They do bring up Matt. They want to know, like, is he okay?
Right.
What's happening? Have you done anything? And this all, like, it's funny. Like, you get these moments where we slow down because this all happens really fast within the same sort of day, right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different conversations that happen immediately upon arriving back in Tar Valon. But we get them from Varen, we get, the Amerlin, we get all the girls talking together, and then even different novices coming, running and getting them, and then they're whispering these girls are back, but they ran away. Now they have to go out and act like they've been super, in trouble and all this kind of stuff. So, but no sooner are they given this task than we have one of the Soulless, a gray man, shows up and tries to kill him. Mm-hmm. So what's good? So I think the theme of this is what's going on at the White Tower.
Seriously, yeah. It's basically okay. They're on their way back, they're going to the quarters, right? And then the next thing you know, boom! It's they're getting shot out. It kind of hits. It hits Egwene, nicks her in the ear, and Nynaeve's take cover, type of the thing, right? And then boom. All right, here we go. Now we've powered up a little bit, and we're gonna do it. And Nynaeve actually does this thing. It's pretty cool, right? She uses him, right, and then ties him up with air. Yes. And then I actually thought it was kind of cool when she was explaining that. And she was just talking about how she says, most people don't actually like air, but I think it's kind of a useful trick. Yes. And I was just it's just kind of cool, right? You start learning about the different types of Aes Sedai and what they do and where their powers kind of lie and all that stuff. And I just thought it was kind of cool. I just thought it was a cool, again, as we learn more about the Aes Sedai with these gals. I don't know why. That was just something I kind of took out of it, where she was just kind of explaining it. But anyway, they get the man, right, and then he's been killed.
Yeah. So when they get to right, exactly. And the funny thing about that, right, is that Nynaeve notices at the very end of the chapter. So I don't want to go over the sequence of events. Well, the sequence of events are really important in this, in just that, he's bound by air, right, and then, but they didn't kill him.
Right. They didn't.
Who did? But
exactly.
Shiriam doesn't ask that question. She's not even interested in that. And so Nynaeve does sort of note that it's interesting that she never wondered who stabbed him. And okay, so what's up with that? They're also going back to get the crossbow bolt to make sure there's no evidence that anything crazy had happened here. Shiriam's going to deal with this and get this guy out of here. And so it's okay, who's taking the crossbow bolt? Was it another gray man? Is it someone else? There's obviously more than one person here. And just so you guys understand, the gray men are soulless, meaning they've given their soul up to the Dark One, and they can almost pass right by guards or people, walk through a crowd and be next to you before you even realize they're there, and stab you and gone. Yeah. I mean, they are just, it's almost like they're kind of like this ghost. They're not. They're really. But there's something about them that when your eye looks at them, you just glance right past them. And the warders, right. you find out even later, they are.
Sums up.
This is they are the assassins of the Dark One. This is this order, called an order, whatever you want to call it. But these guys are not to be messed with. And when they're around, it is Danger City, man. Right. It is so it's kind of cool just to see that they encounter one of these. Just barely get away with their lives. Was it by luck? Was there someone else involved in all of this? Is also up for debate at this time. So, yeah. So
and then here we go.
There we go.
Chapter 16. My gosh, right? Galad and Egwene visit, right? Egwene and Nynaeve. They go to Nynaeve's room, right? They find Elaine already there. She's having a heated conversation with her brothers, right? Galad and Egwene. Egwene blushes furiously and has some rather inappropriate thoughts when Galad greets her. And I just don't know why. It's just one of those things where it's my God, every time it's like before when they were talking about how hot how they thought Rand was so hot. And now they're just talking about how they think Galad is so hot. And it's my God. I'm just here we go again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's and so Galad is interesting. And they kind of look over this. It's almost like it gets, because he's so good looking. We're gonna just gloss over the fact that he is. What do you always call it? Chaotic good. Yeah. Because he will do what's right and what's good, even if it causes.
Right. There's a difference between it's the difference between defeating evil, right, or protecting people from evil, and purging evil, right? You know what I mean? Those are like two definitely different kind of ways of going about it.
Right. Yeah. So, and the reason they're there, remember, they are their sister, Elaine, ran away. They didn't know where she was. They were super worried. Their mother shows up and is questioning them. And it's like, okay, they have no idea. They can't really tell her what's up. And they kind of have to talk their mother, Queen Morghese, into allowing them to stay, which is, it's crazy. So yeah, he's like demanding that they know what's up. Where did you go? She's like, it's none of your business. Galad is like, no. Like, the safety of the daughter heir is our business. That is important to us. And then Nynaeve finally steps in and says, this is our quarters. You're not allowed to be here. What are you doing here anyways? And so they get the boot and they're on their way out, which is good, because that allows then Nynaeve to kind of talk about what has happened with Suan, what has happened with the Grey Men. Also, what's interesting is that you find out that Galad is interested in Egwene, but so is Gawain.
Yeah.
Right? Which you're like, what? Okay, so and he typically, as Elaine says, will just defer that, okay, if Galad's interested, well, no, they would never go for me, right? I mean, they're clearly going to go for Galad. And so he just kind of sits back second and just says, it's whatever, But Elaine loves him. That's her brother, and so she's trying to kind of push that on Egwene a little bit. So
yeah, Egwene and Gawain, right? There we go. There's a name combo for it. Jeez, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, anywho, at this point, they Nynaeve, that's when, as you said, she stops it, right? And then they start talking about, more stuff, right? Hey, we're gonna seek it to Black Ajah, and they're freaking out because the Amyrlin might let Mat die, right? So,
which is a crazy thing. Like, that was what I was saying earlier. Is he is now tied to the horn. So if they let him die, someone else then could tie themselves to the horn.
Yeah.
It's almost like the horn is in their hands.
And they're like, well,
we could have it. Or do we save that boy?
Right.
We have the power to do so. Would it not be wrong if, so it's one of those things where and also they just don't give a lot of information to the girls. I mean, maybe the Amyrlin all along was just, no, this is what we're going to do. But, and he's Taviren. Right. That's the other thing too. You got to remember, like, this is a piece that is super important in there. Yeah.
Right.
So it was in the up in the air for a little bit, but then truly, I think they brought him all this way back. Varen has been bringing him, or his friends are bringing him back. The whole thing. You would really piss off Rand if you didn't save his friend. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you specifically didn't save him because you wanted the Horn of Valyr for yourself. Yeah,
he would come in there and wreck.
Yeah, just come in there and wreck.
Actually, right now he can't do squat, but I mean, it's just like being the Dragon Reborn. You think, this guy can do anything.
Right. So okay, so all right, so after that, that's when Elaida comes in, right? She's going to question the girls about Rand, right? As we said earlier, she's Queen Morghese's advisor, right? She was of the Red Ajah, right? She's not surprised to see all of them in Nynaeve's room. Nynaeve tries to leave, but Elaida tells her they can wait a little bit longer. Then she just asks some questions like, "Oh, did you know that the Black Ajah was like among you?" And it's like,
I mean, come on, well, first of all, no. Okay, actually, we didn't.
You should have known.
Yeah, and so we didn't really know, but now we know. We've heard the stories, and we weren't a part of that, because I think that's the other thing is she's also looking for Moraine would do this too. When you have somebody under question, right? You're trying to see, are they nervous? Are they not letting on to something? What can I figure out here? I'm really going to put them to the question. And they do a great job.
Right. Then she starts questioning him, and she questions Egwene, right? And Egwene's like, well, and then she kind of just like changes the subject kind of a little bit, right? Then she talks about like Mat, right? And then Nynaeve tells her to, shut up, right? And it says, Elaida says, don't speak about that, on the Amyrlin's orders, right? And then we start talking about Rand, and this is where she's like, well, he must be Taviren.
Right.
No joke. Nynaeve tells her, they haven't seen him neither have we as a reader. Haven't seen Rand, haven't seen Rand in a while. But right, and then Shiriam enters the room.
Yeah, and so again, we're back to, which is good because there's kind of this breakup. I mean, like it's funny how when there aren't other Aes Sedai around, you might be a little bit more liberal with your questions, and you might try to manipulate and get answers and stuff. But when another Aes Sedai is there, or even like this Mistress of Novices, you're gonna clam up a little bit. Although I don't know, they're all kind of there does seem to be a lot of ego, and I get it because they're all studying different things and have different agendas and stuff like that. And truly, Elida is pissed that they ruined a relationship between Caemlyn and Tarvalin, so she's not happy about that. She is very interested in Rand and that he was Taviren because she had sort of her viewing when she met him in Caemlyn. So she's been wanting to follow up with these guys for a while. Yeah, and so really there's that. Now, the other thing we forgot to kind of mention is that Elaine was not brought in on all of this conversation. Like, well, they're getting Elaine kind of caught up on the Gray Man, the Black Ajah, and things like that. So, and Shiriam knows that they weren't supposed to tell Elaine. But it's one of those things, they always bring Elaine in just because she's turned into that third confidant in their little group or whatever. So yeah, they definitely bring her in, and she's great. I like her because she is the daughter heir. She could just go back to the palace, do whatever, but she doesn't. She wants to go through the training. It's hard. She knows it's tough, but she wants to be there. She's willing to put her life on the line. Also, multiple times, right? She's mentioning to like Egwene. They're kind of like testing the waters here, as like, I like Rand, right? Right. Don't worry, my brothers are like, they like you, so we're here, good, right?
We're gonna do a trade here, right?
We're good. And she just kind of can't stop thinking about Rand, which is funny, right? So
yeah, and then we learn, hey, there's gonna be some people that go to try to heal Mat. Let's get him back.
Yeah, and the biggest kind of reveal here is that you learn that these different Angreal that you can use. So Moraine has one. We've seen, I think we've seen another one up to this point. What they are, it's a device that helps you sort of bring in more of the power. You can channel more of it, and so they use a Sangreal. They kind of gather around Mat, and he starts speaking in the freaking old tongue.
Yeah,
he's commanding troops apparently and stuff, and it's really bizarre. The girls are supposed to sit there quietly, and they are able to separate him from the dagger. They're then going to put the dagger somewhere safe, and Mat is like good to go. But it's like, what was Mat saying?
Right.
In the old tongue. And remember, prior to him getting the dagger, before they went into Shadar Logoth, remember, he is the one who's doing the Manetheren battle cry.
Right.
Before they go in there, and he's speaking the old tongue back then. Mm-hmm. So there is something with Mat in the old something there, and he's commanding these battle troops, and they find it kind of mysterious, which I think is pretty neat. And it's about time we got Mat back, because we've been needing some more comedy. We've been needing some more. His thoughts always just kind of crack me up. But it was good. They decide that they're to heal him and to bring him back. So that's great. And so basically the last chapter we have today is that he wakes up hungry. Mm-hmm. Right, he's starving, and he has lost a lot of energy and everything, and he does need to be nourished back to health. He's going to be very weak. He needs to be guarded and kept safe here in the tower, and so he will then wake up and kind of want to eat as much as he can.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then so he kind of realizes, right, okay, like I don't want. He sees right. There's I need food, this kind of stuff, getting up, as you said. He realizes he's been healed, and then he's like, then he starts thinking about, I don't plan on staying here long. I need to get out of here.
Right. He is not someone who likes to stay in one place too long, really. I mean, even in his own village, he's like, I'm going out today. Like, I'm going to go around. Now, the other thing is he notices, or we, I guess, notice, just in listening to reading his thoughts, that he has started to kind of... things seem to be a little foggy since he had the dagger. And he even says that once before too. After Moraine does her sort of first healing of him in Caemlyn, he doesn't remember any of that stuff with Rand. His memories are gone. Part of him seems to be leaving. And then now he's saying, some of those memories that are gone are being replaced with things that he knows he had nothing to do with.
Right.
Vividly remembering commanding the Heart Guard, a military formation of Manetheren, a nation long since gone. Like, what's up with that? Clearly, these are not his memories. And so you're just like, something's going on here. I mean, he's kind of losing a part of him. Like, the pillars are the big, those things that not forgetting your best friend, your parents, and stuff like that, but little sort of day in and day out events kind of get away from him. And they're being filled in with other things. So it's almost as if the pattern, and I actually don't think I know the answer to this question. Like, why does he have to go through that? You look at like the pattern. I mean, is it that he needed room for these things, and then so they're making room, or could he have kept all of his memories and also had these memories from long ago? But yeah, and then he has that moment where he realizes he blew the horn of Valyr.
Yeah.
He's like, oh gosh, and that now, since he's done that may tie him to the Aes Sedai, and they may want him, or they may need to keep.
He needs to get out of there.
He's got to get out.
He's got to get out.
So
it's like, on one hand, it's like I trust the Aes Sedai. On the other hand, I'm like, I don't. Right? It's like I feel like I trust them more than I trust the White Cloaks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine what would happen if they had been like saved by the White Cloaks and you have the Horn of Valyr. They might kill you.
Oh,
who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that you're a little bit more cautious with, if you, at least the Aes Sedai and so on, right? That you're seeing the value in someone who's Taviren. They've blown the horn. Possibly there's someone that we can, if they're on our side, it's a great tool or asset or something that we can work with. Is how they see it. Yeah. So. Okay.
All right. As well. Hey, let's head over to our pigeons.
Yeah, we actually have one today. This is pretty cool. And so, guys, if you send these in, we will read them, man. I'm happy to have this one. So, this is from is it Imran? Imran? I might have said that wrong.
I don't know. He's from the UK.
From the UK, which is pretty cool. Cool. We've got people across the pond listen to the old podcast, which is great. He says, hi, guys. First off, I wanted to commend you both for creating a wonderfully accessible podcast for first-time readers such as myself. And on that, I want to say thank you for saying that. That's what we were trying to do. And I know sometimes it is very difficult to kind of keep it really just in this. I've had to edit. The last episode, I had to edit 2 things out where I misspoke. And I said someone else's name,
and I didn't catch it. And then
you had no idea.
I was like, yeah.
I was making a note in the doc. I was like, edit that out. And then I know you didn't even catch it, and most people wouldn't catch it. But those veteran readers would be like, "Es just said something. That person's name. What the heck?" So we're always working on that. Definitely trying to keep it suitable for first time readers, and fun stuff in there for veteran readers as well. So it's nice to read along with you guys, because it's difficult to find a connection to the community without risking reading spoilers. And that's the big thing, right? Is that you go to the wiki, and even just one paragraph down, I know this has happened to you before, as you're reading about someone, you're like, oh shoot, like, because it's just a big summary. And when you're reading and you're trying to get some more understanding of what's going on, you slip into spoiler, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't mean to do that. But you want to understand. It's always good, I think, to stop and have a better understanding of what's happening. If you can even go back and reread it, or try to put the pieces together and get a better picture of what's going on, because it helps you then from there make better connections to things that are coming as you experience them. So yeah, that's good. So I've actually just started the Shadow Rising, so I'm a bit ahead, but I'm eagerly awaiting part 2 of the Dragon Reborn. Hope it goes live soon, and it will. Thank you. One thing I would like to comment on, if possible, is Perrin's relationship with his wolf side, because I must admit to getting slightly confused about how it works. Is he channeling a wolf spirit, or is it working towards a shape-shifting situation? If you could touch on that at some point, I would really appreciate it. Many thanks. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for sending this in. Very, very happy to have it, and really, really cool to kind of get questions about that.
I don't think that we entirely know. It's just it's just that it's something. He's got the yellow eyes. He can obviously sniff stuff. And it just seems like it's going to be one of these things that it's like it takes a good while before we really, really understand it. But we know that it has something to do with oh God, and I'm blanking on his name.
Elias.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's something going on there.
Yeah. And so he's similar to Elias, right? So we know that Elias kind of talks about
he used to be a
his
warder.
past being a warder and what happened to him, chased off, or too many Aes Sedai kind of thinking, like when something's unknown, right? They jump to the conclusion, well, it could be a dark power,
friend,
friend, or it's just so unknown that we want to study it and we're very interested in it, which that could be bothersome. Huron being a sniffer, that's something that is, so a lot of what, like when Aes Sedai talk about ancient things and ancient powers or things that were known, there were things that were known in the Age of Legends during Lews Therin Telemon's time, the dragon, right? They could do things that nowadays these Aes Sedai have no clue. No clue. When they were looking at the portal stone, barely understand it. They've got a few snippets here and there from the Age of Legends. What they have said so far to this point in the series is that what Huron and what Min and what Perrin have, these strange kind of abilities that are curious to the Aes Sedai, they seem to be something that predates the Age of Legends. And you're like, whoa, that's old.
Whoa,
I mean,
yeah.
well, like what is that is kind of coming back here? And so I don't know. I would say, I think the only thing I could probably say is that it's not necessarily channeling of any kind, and that seems to be something. I don't know. That's tough to answer without actually going into all the details about it. And
because I can tell you right now, I don't think that
what do you think?
I don't know. I don't. Mm-hmm. We haven't read exactly how it's done yet. We just know that he has it, and even you go back to the Eye of the World when Moiraine finds out he has yellow eyes, she's like, hold on a second. Right when they all meet in the tavern, but that's just kind of it. I don't think we've found out about it yet.
Right. So here we go, and this is just, let's see how much of this I can kind of read.
I think you may be entering spoiler territory quick because I don't think we've gotten there.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm just saying I don't feel like I've read it.
Yeah. Okay. We know that they just came across a village where they had.
Ez can explain it on Patreon.
I can explain it on Patreon. Yeah, a little bit more. Although there's not really a great answer for this question. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, like, as you go along in the series, you're sort of like, you get little tiny bits and bits and bits, and you're like, yes, this is building, and it's great. But you get a lot more understanding about the Aes Sedai, the One Power, and what they can do quick. But some of these other things that you keep thinking,
like Min,
Like
I don't think we're gonna figure out Min. I don't think we're gonna figure out Min's power until like the end.
Yeah, some of those things you just got to hang on all the way and until the end, and that's it's part of the ride. And telling you anything about it might actually
spoil it
a little bit. But I will say we do know that he's hearing the thoughts, right? Not just of one wolf, but of other wolves.
Yeah.
His eyes have shifted. He can sometimes almost sense where they are. He knows when they're following. He tries to block it out. He has recently seen. Well, in his dreams and stuff, he's had like basically wolf spirit guides, right? So that's been interesting. And so Moiraine has just told us that it's something ancient.
Yeah,
ancient. So, there's that. But I would just say that it is separate from the whole channeling thing. So, yeah, cool, great thought, and I'm really happy to have one of those for the podcast. So, but that is the Dragon Reborn Part 2. Wow.
Yeah. It's good, man. It just feels good. Hey, so next time we're going to be talking chapters 20 to 27. So just a little bit shorter of a reading schedule. But guys, stay tuned. Make sure to hit up our Patreon for that more. We certainly have more content over there, and we'll be keeping an eye out for any kind of big show news if something were to drop. And you have something else? Yeah,
well, I just want to say, like, I would love to, like I said, hopefully this weekend I can get the Nicole Whitaker kind of episode up so you guys can check that out. One of our patrons, longtime friend of our podcasting projects. And I would love to get to meet some of our other patrons. You know, because we're on there just chatting and stuff. As long as, and again, I know some people are kind of nervous about like, well, if we get on there, what if we start talking about stuff that I kind of forget?
Spoilers. Things will be marked spoilers if it's deep spoilers.
Yeah, and also when we're just doing a hangout, it's more just getting to know you guys. What do you think about stuff?
Absolutely,
that we don't even have to talk about Wheel of Time. That's just to get to know you kind of session. But even when we do talk spoilers, because I want to bring this up in the fall, and bring some of you guys in here and just talk about some of your favorite parts of the series for veteran readers. Don't feel like you have to know the entire series inside and out. There is literally no way. No way. I mean, I have what we do beforehand is I go through and I reread it every time that we get into it. I also have a bunch of wikis and resources in front of me, and I have my own notes and stuff that I've gone and looked at. But if you were to ask me, I mean, I know the series, and I know the sequence of events, but then you want to get on into some of those mysteries and nuances and stuff. It's tough. It's a lot. And that's why we have such great resources around the fandom. So don't ever worry about that, because it'll be a lot of fun, real chill, real easy going. And it's always great to me. This is my spirit anyways. When someone brings up something that I had forgotten and you're like, oh, wow. I mean, like, it always makes it cool because like something that stood out to somebody else in the series, whether it's even this happens in Game of Thrones all the time, where you read something really stuck to you, a line, and you pulled it out. I'm like, I don't remember that. That's freaking awesome. You know, that's like it adds to sort of.
It's too big.
Yeah, and that's okay. So don't be intimidated by those. Those will be fun kind of Zoom hangouts that we want to do there, and I think we're going to do that for anyone $5 and up in Patreon, and try to get some of that going just to get to know people. So
absolutely. All right, guys, with that, we want to thank you for answering the call. In our next episode, we will be discussing The Dragon Reborn chapters 20 to 27.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a message at thehornofvalir@gmail.com.
We will see you soon, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.